and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I actually got inspired by this gal. Her name is Amanda, and she did something similar to this where she was talking about tips on staying healthy or staying fit during Ramadan. And I thought that was such a great idea because I feel like people don't really talk about that often, and I feel like I have gathered a good amount of tips and tricks, so I wanted to share that with you guys. I will leave her video down below as well. She's super cute. So anyway, yes, let's get started. Tip number one is do not skip out on suhoor. And I know that that is really hard, and it's really hard for me because oftentimes, especially last Ramadan, I'm pretty sure 90% of the time I just didn't have suhoor. And it is so important because when you think about it, you're only allowed a certain time period where you're eating, and if you think about how much food you're actually intaking during that time period, it's not nearly as much as you would be eating if it was not Ramadan. You know what I mean? And so for me, one thing that I really like to do is eat suhoor, even if it's not a super big crazy filling meal, but just something to hold me off longer than I would have if I didn't have suhoor, if that makes sense. So for me, one thing that's really important is to drink lots and lots and lots of water, especially because right now Ramadan is during the warmer times of the month, so we are bound to get dehydrated a lot faster. So drinking a lot of water during suhoor and having a meal or something small, it can be oatmeal, it can be rice and chicken, it can be whatever it is that you want to have, but something that is going to be good and healthy for you, but it will also sustain you for longer throughout that next day. Tying in with the point about eating suhoor is to also avoid eating a lot of sugar. And I know that that can be so tempting because it's Ramadan, we're celebrating at the end of the day, we're eating all the good food, we're having the amazing dessert, and that's completely normal. And I think that life is about balance. So yes, eat that knafa, do that, but also I think it's important to watch your body and watch yourself and watch what you're eating, just as though you were doing that pre-Ramadan as well. So for example, if you look at your day and you know that your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner, and all the snacks in between were super healthy, but then at the end of the night you have a nice bowl of ice cream and that's your dessert and your sweet tooth, and that's your balance for the day. Totally normal, totally cool. I do that all the time, but keep maintaining that as Ramadan comes and goes as well, because the way I look at it, it's okay, I'm gonna have a huge ass dinner, and then I usually just don't eat, have a bunch of water, and then I have a sweet at the end. But if you look at the portioning of that, it's not really a healthy, nutritious, dense meal, if that makes sense. So I like to portion it out where, personally, even if I'm having sweets at the end of the night, I try to make it healthier by making little sweets here and there. Or if I'm having knafa, or if I'm having whatever it is that I'm having, then I'm doing that within moderation. And the reason for that is because, at least for me personally, I don't know if it's just a weird habit that I have, but when I have sugar right before I go to bed, the next morning I am so hungry. I am so hungry, and my body is just craving even more sweets and food, and my stomach is all gurgly. I don't know if that's just me, but sugar does that to me. So for me, if I eat right before I have to fast, I know the next morning it's gonna be a hard morning because I get so hungry. So one thing that I would give a tip for is just to avoid sugar right when you're about to fast. And then the third tip, which is tying into the first tip, and that's drinking lots of water. And I know that right when we break our fast, we're gulping down water because we're so thirsty, but to maintain that throughout the rest of the night as well, that right when I break my fast, I am gulping down my full 32-ounce hydro flask, but then that's it. That's all I've had for the rest of the night up until the next day. And I don't think that that's healthy because typically I usually drink 2 to 3 of those, and so I want to try to maintain that as much as possible. So I'll have a huge glass of water before I have my food. After I break my fast, I'll have my food, have more water, have water while I'm eating, and then have water before I eat my next meal, have the water before the gym, during the gym, after the gym. Kind of keep your water bottle and have that be your little buddy, so that way you are always aware that you're supposed to be drinking your water. And that's one thing that I found too, my hydro flask, wherever I go, my hydro flask goes with me because I am always aware that I should be drinking water, and it's easy, and it becomes a habit. You just kind of do it. Okay, the fourth tip, I just feel like all these tips kind of coincide with each other, but the fourth tip is to try to stay away from caffeine as much as possible. And I know that a lot of people get really affected by caffeine, so if they have coffee, they're wired. For some reason, me and everybody in my family, I can literally have a huge cup of coffee and just knock out, and I have no problem with it. I feel like caffeine doesn't do much for my body. But what I did notice when I started drinking coffee like a month ago or so is that I become so much more dehydrated by drinking coffee or caffeine. Caffeine can be in many sources, but for me it's predominantly coffee. And so one thing that I will recommend, and I'm going to work on this too, and because I've noticed that it does affect my body, is to try to stay away from caffeine as much as possible, just because it's already going to dehydrate you and we're already like dying of thirst as is, let alone having something that's going to be even more dehydrating. Do you know what I mean? So for me, I would probably have like a small itty bitty cup of coffee right after I have my food and with like a cookie or something, because that for me is just a feel-good thing, but I wouldn't like go overboard or anything like that. Okay, so now when it comes to iftar, what are we eating? So for me, this is really important because, you know, in that moment, like not even during Ramadan, like even before Ramadan, when you are so hungry and you're trying to eat healthy, but you're so hungry where anything and everything sounds so much better than going and looking for a healthier option because you're literally starving. So that's what I feel like, that's kind of the mentality I'm in when I'm in Ramadan. Like the whole day I'm thinking, okay, what am I gonna eat? What am I gonna eat? I wanna eat the cookies, and I wanna eat the cinnamon roll, and I wanna eat the most densest dinner I can have, even if it's not healthy, because I am so hungry that I'm just, anything will do, just satisfy that hunger for me. Do you know what I mean? And so for me, one thing that I like to do is to kind of already plan out what I'm eating for the day in the morning. So I'm not super hungry in the morning. I'm not as hungry as I would be at like 6 or 7 or 8 p.m. And so, for example, I know, okay, I'm going to have soup with chicken made out of bone broth with vegetables, whatever. And then for dinner, I'm going to have a really hearty chicken with a salad and quinoa or whatever it may be. Kind of like plan out what you're going to eat, so that way you're not left in like panic mode like a few hours before and you just would eat anything because you're just that hungry. Again, everything is in moderation. So you don't have to be perfect to a T where you have to have exactly 55.23 carbs and like that's just too much for me. But just like be cautious of what you're eating and just be aware that everything on your plate is wholesome and it's good for you and you feel happy eating those foods, and you know you're going to feel good afterward. Which leads me into my next point, because you want to be able to feel good, because oftentimes, like me, I hit the gym after I eat. But basically, after I have iftar, I kind of chill for a little bit and then I go to the gym, and I usually go 5 times a week, and even during Ramadan I try to maintain that, because thankfully for me, I'm a realtor, so a lot of my work can be done from home. And so even if it requires me to get up still super early, I create my own schedule so then I can kind of play around with what's going on. So what I like to do is I like to go to the gym right after iftar, because not straight afterward, because I'm so full and so like filled with water that I'm just going to feel so disgusted and I know my workout's going to be shit. So I like to just chill for a little bit and then go and get a really good workout, because now I know that my body has some energy, because before I'd be like slothing my way left and right, you know? But with that being said though, there has been times in the past during Ramadan where I will have something to do afterward, but then I still want to work out, so I'll go working out before iftar. And also, for some people that might not work, where you genuinely do not have the energy to work out right before iftar and you feel like you're gonna pass out, so don't do it. Like, listen to your body and what makes you feel the best. So if you know that you're not going to feel so good working out before, then don't work out before, you know? You can go on a 10, 15, 20 minute walk after iftar if that's going to be better for you, you know? But for me, oftentimes I'm hanging out with my friends, I'm doing things after iftar, so sometimes I just can't go work out afterward, but I don't want to neglect my workout, and it just makes me feel good, so I want to continue to work out during Ramadan anyway. So for me, sometimes I have more strength and energy than other days where I can go work out before, and if I can't, then I won't. Like, it's fine, it's not the end of the world. Ramadan's only a month, and then we just can pick it back up after it's over. Like, it's not that serious, but it's kind of integrating those small healthy little habits, because once you set that up, like with the first week of Ramadan, it becomes a habit for the rest of the weeks, where it's like, you know, this is your schedule and this is what you're expected to do. Plan out your schedule, because a lot of people have to go to work at 6, 7, or 8 in the morning. So you coming back home at midnight after the gym, it's not realistic. So what schedule can you build for yourself that's going to be the most realistic and it's going to make you feel the best at the end of the day? So this leads me into my final point, and that is sleep. I think sleep is so important, and it's just not talked about as much, and everyone takes sleep for granted, where they can think they can live off of 3 to 4 hours of sleep, and that is a temporary solution, but no way in hell is that going to be maintainable for the rest of your life. So for me, one thing that I learned is I need at least 7.5 to 8 hours of sleep every single night, regardless. If I get anything less than that, I just cannot function properly. So in Ramadan, for example, I know honestly I'm going to be sleeping a lot later at night than I would, because usually I sleep around 10 p.m. so I can wake up around 6. But now with Ramadan, that's not realistic, because we break our fast at like 8:30. So by the time we eat and chill and do everything, next thing you know, it's like midnight. So now it's like, I know that for me to be able to get those 8 hours of sleep, I'd have to go to bed at midnight, be up at 8 a.m. and then that will cover my 8 hours of sleep bracket, and then kind of go from there. And that's different for everybody. For someone, they can thrive off of 6 hours of sleep, and if that's you, then that's amazing. But it's kind of figuring out that schedule that's going to work best for you to make you the healthiest version of yourself during Ramadan. And it's different for everybody. For some people, they can wake up at noon and they're totally okay with that, but for me, I would just wake up and I feel like I live in a completely different world, and I'm so confused on where I am, because I'm so used to waking up a lot earlier. It just will completely throw off my day. Yeah, so those are all my tips that I wanted to share with you guys. Today's the first day of Ramadan when I'm filming this, so we'll see how it goes. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found this helpful, and I hope it just gives you a little bit of inspiration, and know that it's okay to kind of lay off a little bit and chill out for a little bit for this month. Like, your priority doesn't have to be the gym and eating healthy every second of the day. Like, this is a month of celebration, and it's okay to just kind of chill, you know? So don't be so hard on yourself. Enjoy it. Eat all the good foods, eat all the nutritious foods, eat all the sweets. I have the world's biggest sweet tooth, so for me that is my weakness, because I will have 90% of my meals be straight up chocolate if I could, but also I need to chill out. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.